Am I the asshole for not wanting my husband to go to his ex's funeral? I'll admit, I'm biased right off the bat. I couldn't stand her. I call her his ex to myself and others. He called her his friend. We're all in our early 40s. She died recently, aneurysm. I've been with him 10 years now, but he'd known her for 20 plus. The way he tells it, they were friends in college, decided to date, got married, then realized they weren't a great couple and decided to just be friends. All that happened years before I met him. He was clear early on that she was important. A couple months into dating, it came up that his friend was actually his ex-wife. He explained the above to me, saying she was one of his closest friends and that it was purely platonic. I expressed some discomfort at him being so close to an ex, and he told me that's fine. If you have a serious issue with it, let me know now and save us some time. I'll choose her. I like you and all, but I've known her for over 12 years and she's one of the most important people in my life. You'll have to be okay with that if you want us to be a thing. When we were engaged, I asked again. He gave me this perplexed look and asked, why would us getting married affect my friendships? I sucked it up and went along. I resented every moment of knowing her, especially when we had to be social. She understood some part of him I couldn't. Her husband was friends with mine as well, so it's not like I could use him as an angle. He'd have lunch with the ex, they'd go to their geeky movies and whatever. The few times I brought it up, he said, we had this conversation before. You had your chance to back out. She died after they had lunch the other day on the way to her car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly, I was relieved. He was working with her husband on funeral planning. I told him, you don't think you're going, do you? My argument summed up, she's dead, so she's not a factor anymore. He doesn't get to use his, she's my friend excuse, since she doesn't exist anymore. He had his cry for a couple of days. He gets to be done with mourning her already. There's no need for him to go to the funeral, since I wouldn't want her at his. He was the angriest I've ever seen when I told him that, replying that he'll be going no matter how I feel and that he's willing to burn this to the fucking ground, while holding up his wedding band. Besides you, she was the closest friend in my life. Him, her husband, and my sisters are calling me an insensitive asshole over this, all saying that there was no romantic aspect to the relationship and that I'm heartless. Her husband went so far as calling me a ghoul for how I've reacted. I never felt the relationship was appropriate, and I hid that for years because I wanted to be with my husband. Now that she's gone, I don't feel like I should have to hide it anymore, and can speak freely. Am I the asshole for just wanting him to be done with her and for him to not attend the funeral? The top comment. You're the asshole. When he divorces you, he probably won't have to explain his friendship with you to the next woman because seriously, who'd want to stay friends with a woman who had treated you like this? Someone else said, you're the asshole. Congrats on your impeding divorce. Someone said, if she doesn't exist anymore, why are you still so jealous of her? He can't even leave you for her now, so I think it's time you got past it. You're the asshole. You can speak freely, and he can leave after finding out how heartless you actually are. Fair enough. Someone responded, I bet he will leave her over this anyway, even when the ex is dead, because damn did she prove to be a shitty person. Someone responded to that. That's the thing though. Even if she doesn't exist, that doesn't mean there will be nothing else to worry about. Every anniversary of the death, every birthday of hers that she's no longer here for, etc. Does she expect him to not acknowledge any of that? Because from what it sounds like, he's the type of person who would. Just because she's gone doesn't mean she's gone. Even her death isn't going to be enough for OP. She's going to want him to pretend this person never existed in the first place. Another comment said, she died after they had lunch the other day on the way to her car. He spent a bunch of time crying, but honestly, I was relieved. Read this sentence you wrote and try to explain to anyone how you aren't the asshole. Yes, you're the asshole. He was working with her husband on funeral planning. I told him, you don't think you're going, do you? Read this sentence you wrote and try to explain to anyone how you aren't the asshole. You're the asshole. I hope he gets a divorce lawyer. Someone else said, if this is real, huge, you're the asshole. Not because you didn't like her. You're the asshole because he's grieving the loss of someone important to him and you're trying to invalidate his feelings. Someone else said, agree. If this is real, you're the asshole. I struggle to see how anyone could sit down, write this, and not realize what a horrible human being they are. But just to recap. 1. Early in your relationship, you were told of this close friend and you were dishonest about your feelings by omission. 2. Your husband gave you the option of walking away if you were uncomfortable. You chose not to. Anything to get that ring, right? But have selfishly and miserably lived with resentment ever since. 3. You sucked it up and went along, but didn't really, languishing in your own insecurity and trying to manipulate and control your husband. 4. The woman has died. She wasn't a threat in life and certainly isn't in death. But your own admission, you never supported the friendship and hid it for years. Shows how deceitful you are. You pretended to accept something you didn't. The best gift of friendship this woman could give your husband in her death is exposing what a nasty piece of work you are. Job done. You've done your husband, yourself, and your relationship a disservice for years. And now, because you can't control your hate, you're going to see the consequences. Happy divorce. This is posted in r/relationshipadvice. I, 30 male, am starting to resent my wife, 30 female, for not being my ex. What steps to take to rebuild our relationship? Background. I've been with my wife, Erin, for 7 years and married for 5, and we have a 2-year-old. 2 years ago, I fell in love with the greatest woman ever, Diamond. I never cheated on my wife before that, and I still say I didn't. What we had was true love. Disclaimer. My wife is a kind soul, but we don't have that spark that we used to. I miss the spark, intensity, and the passion that we had in the beginning of our relationship. I filed for divorce to be with Diamond like we agreed, but for reasons unknown, Diamond got cold feet. My relationship with Diamond lasted 11 months. Afterwards, my wife and I got back together because the divorce wasn't official yet. Now, Erin is a great woman, but she's not Diamond. After getting back together with Erin, every little thing she does bothers me. The way she gets dressed to go to work, the way she makes my coffee, everything. Unfortunately, I began taking it out on her by starting arguments and being snappy. Erin is a great person and doesn't deserve that. Fallout. I realized I needed to take a step back after what happened last night. My wife put the baby to sleep and said she was going to shower and head to bed early. She asked if I wanted a snack or something before I go to bed. I said no. She said she loves me and kissed me on the cheek. I didn't say anything, and she said, "Why don't you love me?" She said, "I'm doing everything I can, but I don't know." I just told her point blank, "You're not her." That hurt her a lot. She just went upstairs, and when I joined her an hour later, she was still crying. She cried all night in the master bathroom that I couldn't get sleep. She stopped and went to bed finally at 3:30 in the morning. I feel so fucking terrible, and I want to do my part to rebuild our passion. Please help any way you can. The top comment. You sound awful. That was deliberately mean and hurtful. Divorce her. She deserves so much better. Someone else said, Diamond probably got cold feet because she realized she was about to be with a man that cheated on his wife, LMAO. I hope Erin leaves you. Someone responded, probably wouldn't take long before he was cheating on her as well. Once that spark fades, he'd be out the door looking for the next true love of his life. Someone else said, you were comparing apples to oranges. Actually, you were comparing apples to some imaginary type of dragon fruit that only exists in your head. Why I say apples versus oranges. You can't compare long-term commitment to a short-term thing. You said it yourself. You had more spark with Erin in the early stages of that relationship about the imaginary dragon fruit. You never got to the serious part of the relationship with Diamond, at least not nearly as serious as it is with Erin. Meaning, you were not comparing your relationship with Erin to what you imagine long-term commitment would look like with Diamond. If you don't realize the role you played in killing the spark in your marriage, there is no reason to not assume future relationships will follow a similar pattern. If you don't learn from your past, you are bound to repeat it. And then the commenter quotes OP. After getting back together with Erin, every little thing she does bothers me. The way she gets dressed to go to work, the way she makes my coffee, everything. Unfortunately, I began taking it out on her by starting arguments and being snappy. Erin is a great person and doesn't deserve that. They continued, what you are feeling here is resentment, and resentment is caused by unfulfilled expectations. You are the one who created those expectations, meaning you are the one who created the resentment. You are the main source of your own frustration. What are you doing to get back a spark with Erin? How are you investing in yourself? How are you making it possible for Erin to invest in herself? What are you guys doing different? How are you going to keep having novelty in your marriage? Someone else responded, by the way, OP, make your own fucking coffee if you hate how your wife does it so much. Someone responded to that. Dear Lord, I misread the post. I thought it was the way she makes her coffee. Didn't realize that he was moaning about her doing a nice thing for him. What an ass. Someone else said, so, you cheated on your wife at the same time as you gave birth and was dealing with a newborn. Then you left her for almost a year, so she was presumably working and struggling to care for the new baby on her own that whole time. Now you're back together. She's still working and mothering a 2-year-old, an age at which children are 24/7, basically Godzilla, and your house is Tokyo. And yet, she has to make your coffee for you on top of all of that, while you contribute what exactly? And tell her openly you don't love her as much as the woman you cheated with. This cannot be real. The last comment is, you're a piece of shit. For your wife's sake, divorce her so that she can find a good man who will actually love her. Am I the asshole for euthanizing my daughter's emotional support animal for her own sake? Using a throwaway because I have family members on Reddit. My daughter recently turned 20. She's been dealing with major depressive disorder, social anxiety, anorexia, body dysmorphic disorder, and 2 autoimmune diseases since she was around 12. I'm very involved in her treatment and obviously wanted her to get better, so when her therapist recommended getting her dog to register as an ESA, we got her one for her 16th birthday, named Juniper. I generally dislike animals, but it was for my daughter's sake, so I caved. Junie and my daughter grew close, and I've seen a notable difference in her since we got the dog, especially in her sense of independence and self-esteem. 4 years later, my daughter is now a part-time tutor, volunteers with the elderly, and attends schools full-time with excellent grades. I'm so proud of how far she's come, and though I realize she has a way to go, Junie has helped her, and I credit the dog for that immensely. Here's the problem. While my daughter was at school, Junie got out of the house and got hit by a car since we live right in front of a busy street. My wife and I rushed her into the vet and were told that Junie would need surgery, which would cost somewhere in the ballpark of $2,000. I make a good salary, but I just cannot justify spending that much on a dog, especially when it may not even work and Junie will probably be disabled. Plus, she was pushing 5 years old, and her breed usually only lives for 9 to 10 years. Due to all these reasons, I decided the humane and logical decision would be to euthanize Junie. At this point, I called my daughter to let her know the situation and the solution I'd chosen, and she freaked out on me. She tried telling me how she had $700 in savings and would quickly find a job to pay me back the rest, to which I declined because A, it's not just about the money, and B, I don't want to risk ruining her mental health by her getting a job, especially since she'd likely have to quit one of her volunteer jobs which have helped her so much. I explained this to her, but she wasn't hearing reason, so I put my foot down and said my decision was final because the dog was technically mine since I paid for it. Then I hung up. We put Junie down, surrounding her with love and gratitude. When we got home, my daughter had just pulled in and was hysterical. I told her she was too old to be acting like this, and one part of becoming a competent, independent adult was accepting what life throws at you. Now she isn't speaking to me. I'm beginning to think I should have at least told her where we were so she could say goodbye. On the other hand, Junie already served her purpose in helping my daughter, and she only had the dog for 4 years, so I don't understand the huge overreaction. Am I the asshole? Edit. Jesus Christ. Message received. I guess I am the asshole. I still believe I made the best choice, but I suppose I could have let her be more involved. Some people are asking the same questions, so I'll answer them here. I am not a sociopath. I am just excellent at separating emotion and preference of logic, especially in times of crisis. This does not mean I don't feel anything. I love my daughter more than anything in the world. My wife was 100% on my side for the actual decision of putting Junie down and agreed our daughter should not witness it. She did, however, disagree with the words and tone I used towards my daughter when we got home, which is where I began wondering if I was the asshole. I am not and have never been jealous of Junie. That's ridiculous. She was an emotional crutch for my daughter and will always be special to me in that way. My daughter did not love me any less after getting the dog. If anything, she loved me more. Lastly, thought I would update you all that I did, in fact, talk to my daughter today. It took her some time to let me in, but once she did, I was able to explain my side, give her my reasonings for what I did, and convince her to forgive me. She agreed, and we are all moving past this as soon as possible. I'm actually about to run out and get her favorite fast food for dinner, and we're having a family movie night. She's still acting distant and mopey, but she has a regular therapist appointment tomorrow, so I'm confident she can vent there and her therapist can help her get through this without any permanent damage. By the way, I also offered to get her another dog, which wasn't easy for me. And she declined, so I don't think her bond with the dog, like for animals in general, was as unbreakable and solid as all of you commenters are claiming. Junie just wasn't meant to be around that long, and I'm glad my daughter was able to have 4 years with a dog she liked. Now we're moving on. The end. Edit 2. To everyone leaving horrendous messages to me in my DMs, take a look at yourself and the words you're using against me, and consider how hypocritical it is that you're calling me the asshole when you're telling me you hope my daughter murders me. The top comment. You're the asshole. You likely ruined her mental state by killing her dog much more than a job would have. I'm amazed that you think what you did was okay. You basically killed her best friend. Also, 5 years is only half of her life. That's like saying someone is better off dying at 50 than trying to get a life-saving surgery. Someone else said, "You're the asshole. I wish I didn't read this. This animal was a living being and a member of the family, not an object to be discarded once it had fulfilled its purpose. If you can't justify spending money on medical treatment for a pet, then you don't get a pet. Simple as that. People who have such a cavalier attitude about euthanasia makes me sick. That's enough internet for tonight." The last comment said, "You're the asshole. Jesus, this is actually sickening. Saying that Junie already served her purpose in helping my daughter is such a gross thing. How do you know your daughter doesn't still rely on that dog emotionally? Just because she's doing better doesn't mean she still doesn't have those mental health issues. You basically killed your daughter's best friend for no reason. You said you could afford the surgery. I wouldn't be surprised if your daughter regresses majorly due to this. Shame on you. My friend is choosing to abort and I am absolutely heartbroken. So, for a little bit of context, my friend and I are both 21-year-old women and we have been best friends for the last 12 years. We've been through a lot of ups and downs in life and been through everything together. This girl has legitimately saved my life before, and I'm grateful to her beyond words for it. But in the last few years, things have changed. About 3 years ago, she became pregnant by a guy that she was in an abusive, long-distance relationship with. Now, I've been quite pro-life for as long as I can remember, but my views have definitely become a lot more rigid and less lenient in the last few years. Whereas in the past, I probably would have made a case for abortion being permissible in situations such as rape or abuse. My point of view has changed drastically, and I don't see it that way at all anymore. I think life is absolutely precious and should be protected at any cost, and the story I'm about to tell you is a large part of the reason why. Anyway, to continue the story about my friend, her decision to have an abortion a few years ago deeply hurt me, but at the same time, considering she was escaping abuse, I justified it for that reason, and I feel like that was my way of coping with things so they didn't hurt me as much. I thought it would be a learning experience for her and that she would deeply regret the decision and learn from her mistakes. Now, fast forward a few years later and she's in a healthy relationship with a guy that she loves very much. She became pregnant about a month ago and she did absolutely nothing to prevent this. She used absolutely no form of contraception whatsoever and got pregnant out of sheer irresponsibility. Despite this, it came as a huge shock to her that she's telling me she has to make the decision to kill her baby. The reason she feels like she needs to make this decision is classic brainwashed arguments such as, I'm still so young and I have so much I want to do with my life. I need to go to university, I need to travel, my life will be over if I have a kid, blah blah blah. And despite me telling her there's about 1 million different ways she can overcome all those challenges and the love she will feel for her child will supersede any struggle, she still feels like murder is a choice that she has to make. Even worse, she is drinking and smoking while pregnant because she's going to get rid of it anyway. This has absolutely crushed me. It's made me so incredibly depressed and heartbroken that I have had a hard time sleeping, eating, and going to work. I feel like I'm preemptively mourning a loss that hasn't even happened yet, but regardless of my pleas for her to change her mind, nothing seems able to stop her. Her mind is just dead set on killing her baby, and I'm completely powerless to stop this. What's also really challenging is the majority of people are totally brainwashed by pro-choice propaganda, so they would see my heartbroken response to the news as a major overreaction. I love my friend so incredibly much, but at the same time, it's really hard to reconcile with the fact that she's making an incredibly selfish and horrible decision and she doesn't realize the gravity of her choice. It rips my heart into shreds that she sees it as a difference of opinion and not the end of a life. She seems to have absolutely no remorse or regret whatsoever, not only for her previous abortion, but for the choice that she's about to make, and I feel like my hands are tied, and I'm screaming into the void. I don't even know what can be done anymore. I'm a newbie Christian, but all religious views aside, I still think life is incredibly precious and I always have thought so. And my friend is one of those new age spiritual people who identifies as conservative in a lot of ways, but also seems to be incredibly hypocritical. Rules for thee, not for me type. I really don't know what to do or if there's anything that can be done. I pray nonstop. I see the baby in her womb right now as an extension of her and as the child that she created with the man she loves because that's exactly what it is and she doesn't even consider it to be a baby yet. My heart is honestly shattered into 1 million little pieces and I'm sick to my stomach every time I think about it. I can't stop crying and my heart hurts so much. I forgave her for her first abortion because I think forgiveness is so important and it's what Jesus would do. However, with her not taking accountability, her selfishness and failure to learn from her past decisions makes it 10 times harder to accept this time. I don't want to cut off someone that I've been friends with for over half my life because of something like this, but at the same time, it's going to cause me an incredible amount of pain to watch her go through with this. Someone please tell me, even if nothing can be done, I just want some sort of device or some sort of solace. I am so hurt. The top comment, your concern for your friend's life is underwhelming. Someone responded, maybe this geezer who thinks babies' lives are so important should be volunteering for an organization that helps improve the quality of life of born babies, which is a lot more productive than whining online about a non-sentient clump. Someone else said, the comments encouraging her to out her friend if she's in the States, and her claiming Canada's system is a nightmare because beliefs, or take her to a pre-born clinic are expected but still so fucking evil. Someone responded, more and more people want everyone to live their way and do what they say, but don't care to hear anyone else's opinion because it's all about them and their wants. It's exhausting. I hope her friend at a minimum learns she can't tell this friend anything if she wishes to stay in contact. Someone else said she has 88 in her username, and the ages don't add up to it being her birth year. White supremacy bullshit. Someone responded, what gives it away to me with these posts is how it's always, she got pregnant a month ago, immediately decided on abortion, and is just out drinking and partying and not even scheduled the abortion yet. Like there isn't a time limit to being about to get an abortion. Someone else said that sub is so gross. It's one of the few subs I won't click on because it's just absurd how awful they are. I can't imagine being this insane over what somebody else chooses to do with their own body. Someone else said, lol, this wacko in the comments over there complaining that sentences for crimes like murder and rape in Canada are too light, so I doubt anything will be done about it, as though abortion isn't legal in Canada. Like 100% nothing would be done. There is no it because this woman isn't committing a crime. Someone responded, LOL. Someone also said the friend thinks she's above the law. What law? If abortion was illegal where they are, I'm sure OP would say it.